More than 100 aid groups are warning about a mass starvation in the region. The United Nations says more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed in the past 2 months while seeking aid in Gaza. And it's blaming the new aid distribution system, which has operated a group controlled by the Israeli government. And a warning that the following footage might be disturbing for viewers because it involves children. Now, these videos are from a hospital in Han Yunis today. They show malnourished children lying in hospital beds waiting for treatment. A stark image showing the impact of the lack of food and aid getting into the hands of Palestinians in Gaza. The World Health Organization says 21 children under the age of 5 have died of malnutrition so far this year. I'm joined now by the president of Save the Children Canada, Danny Glenwright. Danny, it's good to see you again. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thanks for having me, David.
Those images tell a story. I don't know if they tell the whole story. What can you tell us about the aid situation on the ground in Gaza?
Well, unfortunately, David, it's not any better than what I've been telling you over the course of the past 2 years when I've joined you on this show. It's gotten worse each time I'm here. As you said, what we are now seeing is the Israeli government perpetuating mass starvation across the entirety of the Gaza Strip. We are seeing children starving to death. And we are seeing aid being used by the Israeli government as bait to entice Palestinians to leave their homes, where they are corralled and concentrated into smaller and smaller areas, where, as you've noted, they are then almost daily massacred by the Israeli military. We've seen more than 1,000 Palestinians massacred just as they are lining up to get food to relieve the starvation for their families. And I have colleagues in Gaza who have made the decision, because of course aid workers in Gaza are also queuing up now for food because it's not getting in there, have made the decision not to go because they do not want to risk their lives for a bag of flour. They would rather stay at home and not eat and not feed their children. That's the situation as we're seeing it now, and it's grim.
What are your team members saying about their own situation? I mean, it's always been precarious to go out and seek food since this whole conflict began, but there's an extra level of it now with this new process of distributing aid. I mean, what are they telling you about how they're doing and how long they can hold out, the people who've been working for you throughout this?
Well, most people in Gaza who are eating now are only eating 1 meal a day. And my colleagues are saying that they are just seeing children wandering the streets with bowls or buckets for water that are empty, desperately looking for food, desperately searching for clean water. And this, of course, is as we have trucks sitting outside the border, as we have warehouses even within Gaza with food, with clean water, with those desperately needed medical supplies. And the Israeli government is not allowing us to distribute them. And as you say, in the photos you've shown, it's incredibly disturbing. We have seen children die of starvation. We are now reporting that 25% of the population of Gaza is in famine, and almost the entirety of Gaza is in the highest classification for malnutrition that we have.
So many of the issues around the distribution of aid have started since the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation took over. And despite these quite frequent reports of people being killed as they line up for aid, the chair of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation says, despite the criticism from the UN and other aid organizations, what they've been doing has been, quote, incredibly effective. What do you say to that?
Well, if what I've told you is effective, then the definition of that word is different in that person's mind, because what I am seeing and what my colleagues are seeing is the very opposite. It's the complete destruction of the UN humanitarian system, and it is the depravity that I've described to you right now. We know what to do in these situations. We have responded before, but what we're seeing right now is starvation by design. This is a man-made crisis being perpetuated by the Israeli government and the Israeli military for political and military imperatives. And we have seen 50,000 children either killed or maimed or injured in some way over the last 2 years. And at this point, what our agency, and has joined with, as you say, more than 100 other agencies to say, the time for finger wagging, the time for hand wringing is over. It is time for action, and I'm calling on Prime Minister Carney and Foreign Minister Anand that we are now aligned to these atrocities. And if Canada is going to stand up to its commitments to follow international law, as we've done in so many other crises, It is time now for action.
So on that point, Danny, Canada and dozens of other countries, they released a joint statement calling for those aid paths to be reopened for NGOs such as Save the Children to be allowed back in to do the work or to be enabled to do their work. And they did say they would take further action if necessary. So what action? What would you like to see Canada and these other governments do here?
There's a big discrepancy in what Canada is not doing right now around Gaza and what we've rallied to do and the risks we've taken in other humanitarian contexts before. Think about how we mobilized to support Ukraine and Canada. Think about all we did, the risks we took to make sure that civilian lives were protected, to make sure that atrocities were prevented. That is what is required now. The words are welcome, but the time for words are over. We need to see Canada stop selling arms and ammunition that is being used to kill people in Gaza, whether it's directly or through third parties. We know this is still happening. There are diplomatic and economic levers that can be pulled right now and that must be pulled right now, David. History will remember what we did in this moment and what we failed to do in this moment. And it's been 2 years of a lot of words, a lot of finger wagging, and all these agencies have joined together to say this has to stop.
You know, Danny, just to go back to the humanitarian situation as a final point, you see those images of those kids. Even if you get the aid in, the consequences, I mean, are they permanent? Can it be reversed? You know, like the toll on a child who is in the condition that we just saw there on the screen.
But we're in a situation right now where that's exactly the risk we're worried about. The cognitive impairment of children who have gone without food for this long. Let's also remember these children have been out of school for 2 years. Their right to safety, their right to education, their right to food has all been prevented for 2 years. And of course, before that, a siege and a blockade of Gaza that went on for many, many years. Their entire childhood has been conflict. So their lives have been disrupted forever. And all this will do is perpetuate a cycle of violence. And we are incredibly worried about the effects of this malnutrition on children, especially because it has gone on for so long.
Danny Glenwright, always appreciate the time. That's Danny Glenwright, president of Save the Children Canada. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.